people are buying that they shouldn't.
The most important thing for everyone to get out of this episode today is a game plan. You should be able to do 5th grade math on a calculator and say, these are my financial choices, and here's how, executed properly, could actually create retirement by this date.
All right, Kris, in preparation to record today, I was doing a little research, and I'd love to get a hot take on what you think of this. I found a blog post, 31 things you can buy on Amazon that will actually save you money.
Okay.
This totally speaks to the state of the consumer mentality in America.
All right, I'm already upset. My blood is starting to boil. You need to buy these things.
Buy these things that'll actually save you money. These brilliant reusable sandwich bags.
Reusable sandwich bags?
Yes.
How much are they?
They don't cost a lot, but they're plastic free and reusable.
Wow.
$10.
Great. So instead of buying sandwich bags for, I don't know, months, you could pay $10 and this will save you plastic down the road, and you're going to feel good about being a Greenpeace lover. Which we're going to save the planet.
Your retirement is assured.
Yes,
because you're not spending $10 every 6 months.
Yeah, of all the financial choices Americans should be focusing on, this is probably one of the top 3.
Yes.
Sandwich bag savers.
Okay, you're going to love this next one.
Okay.
Number 2, buy dumbbells so you can quit the gym.
Buy dumbbells so that you can quit the gym? Are they serious? Who put this out there?
That'll save you.
The dumbbell making company put
money.
it out there. Yeah, must have.
Quit the gym. Eco-friendly alternative to dryer sheets. It's a reusable ball. My wife has these, and I think they smell awful. Oh, this must have for removing stains. It's a red wine remover.
A red wine
stain remover. Yeah. And it saves you so much money because what? You spill enough red wine.
Yeah, so can I tell you what's happening?
$10, Kris, and don't have to replace $6, listen. And you don't have to replace your carpet.
Here's what's wrong with all 31 items on this list. And it's the same thing that's wrong with the next 30,000 items that you're shopping for. Most of these things, they're trying to say it's a transfer spend. We're going to save you money. It's like solar. It's like you'll actually save money in 52 years. Now, I know solar's gotten a little better than that, but the reality is that our consumerism is through the roof. Did you know, according to Parkinson's law, they actually have a name for this thing that doesn't matter how much money you make, you spend plus or minus 10% of that amount. You make $50,000 a year, you spend $45,000 to $55,000. You make $300,000 a year, you're spending $270,000 to $330,000. Dude, they have perfected the art of consumerism. They've made things so convenient. People are not saving. Dude, what are you losing your trash over?
Oh my gosh, some of the things on this list are so good. There is this smart plug that reports to your phone how much energy a device is using from that plug, and you can turn the plug off from your smartphone. So that when it uses too much energy, you just shut it off. So your fridge, it's pulling too much energy, just shut it off.
For just a moment. First of all, that's practical because you could save 84 pennies a month.
Kris, you could also just unplug it.
Yeah, but you could also just unplug it.
Do you really need a smartphone device?
My friend has a drink bottle with a battery in it. She charges it, and every time she drinks, it gives her like colorful light accolades.
Yes.
And then it tells her how much she's actually drunken.
Smart water bottles are actually kind of cool because it helps you track water. I love tracking devices and measuring things.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it's not saving our money.
No, can I tell you something that happened in my world? I remember the first time I got up to making about $500,000 a year. And at that point, I had figured out that I could actually spend $500,000 pretty easily. A lot of people think, Kris, if you make $500,000 a year, dude, I could live off of only $100,000 a year. I could only live off of $150,000 a year. But there's 2 different mindsets. And the consumer mindset always has a list of what it wants next. And there was a time, Carson, that what got me rich was falling in love with investing more than consuming. I was saving money for my next investment. I was saving money to buy this business. I was saving money because I fell in love with getting my money to make money for me. And I got so jazzed about it. But then when I got to a certain level of $500,000 a year, I said, man, I got all this money coming in. Now I'm going to transition over to it's a bigger house and I need to buy this furniture for it and I need to purchase this and I want to upgrade my car. And I got to the point where for a few years, I actually was making amazing money, but I got lost spending about as much as I was making. And I remember when I got back to this original choice where I said, you know what I need to do? I've got to go back to the way things were in the beginning, where falling in love with investing was way more exciting than having stuff. And it culminated a few years ago that my wife and I, we literally sold everything and we moved to our new mountain home that was so minimalistic. And we just made an agreement. We're not buying furniture. We're not buying stuff. We're not going to do anything. We're literally just going to enjoy the minimalism of less. And we've been bankrolling millions and millions of dollars that we just keep putting in our investments. And guess what, man? The money is just cascading and rolling forward. Those are two very different mindsets. So this whole $10 crappy sandwich bag to save you money, dude, that's just the next thing on the list. That's justification to make you feel good.
That's what I was going to say. Is most of the things on this list are about doing things yourself instead of having others do it. I mean, they listed Instant Pot, right? It's a fancy crock pot.
Yeah.
And they're saying make your own meals instead of eating out all the time.
Yeah, but it's actually creating an illness in the mind where when you buy something now, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to own this thing for a year or 2 or 3, and then I'm going to upgrade it to the new thing, because we live in a world where literally every single day something new is invented. Every day you can hop on the internet and they're like, oh, wow, they took a measuring tape and added a laser beam that has a built-in thing, and you can push a button and it'll automatically retract. And it's like everything's always getting better. So what we're now in this pinch of is keep buying the same thing over and over again every time it sees a little bit of an improvement. But the speaker just got a little bit clearer. The speaker just got a little tougher. You can take it to rugged places. And so we're taking good things and we're swapping them for quote unquote better things. But man, all we're really doing, we're sucked in the machine. We're lost in the matrix of consumership.
And that's what made me laugh so much about this blog post, Kris, is so much of it is like, obviously these things, they're not actually going to save you money. I mean, the one I'm looking at right now, this Shark Tank gadget for every last drop, it's a little stick that you can stick into the bottle of ketchup to get that last little bit of ketchup out of the bottom of the...
Yeah, and you're saving, by the way, 13 pennies by buying this amazing $7 to $15 thing.
If that's a hack, next time you go to McDonald's, ask for 10 ketchup packets.
Right?
And they just give them to you for free.
It's free.
You just saved, like, you won't have to buy another bottle of ketchup for another day.
Dude, it's a game of keeping up.
Yep.
It's a game of keeping up with the Joneses. But if it's Greenpeace, if it's sourced ethically, if it helps you be 3% more efficient, we're like, well, I have to buy it now. It justifies the expense.
So the last one on the list made me laugh so hard.
Okay, I want to see it.
Buy a Kindle so you don't have to buy books. This cracks me up because guess what you do when you log into your Kindle? Amazon suggests all these books that you should buy from
them. You still
if
have
you
to buy
think
them.
If you think the Amazon's not making millions off of people who have Kindles, like this one's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's more of a mindset than anything. It's not to say that any of those choices are necessarily wrong or bad. Let me tell you the choice that is wrong. It is putting consumership in front of your financial future.
Yes.
Because when your financial future goes bad, it's not your butt that's on the line. It's children, it's loved ones, it could be aging parents. There's people that we can help in this life, but if we don't become good financial stewards, what's the point? We're never going to get there. Your job should be to get so good at making money that you have leftovers that you can do whatever you want with. And if you want to use those leftovers for like gimmicks and hacks and craps and things that just make your life a little bit easier, you could. But I think we fall so easily into this consumer trap. And I'd really ask, what am I really, on my deathbed, what do I really want to be proud of? What do I want said of me? How many people are going to come to my funeral? And you know what? I just don't think that any of these efficiency making companies are going to visit you at your funeral. They're going to say, thanks for your money, sucker.
Yeah. And I think if you're buying these things because you're trying to be more responsible or you're trying to be more efficient, that's great.
Yeah. But I'm not going to get in the wrong or right or what you should or shouldn't, except for this one thing. Have you financially got your act together?
Yep. Because don't go thinking that buying a stick that helps you get the last little bit of ketchup, that like, oh, now you'll be good for retirement. Because you do one real estate deal and you could buy millions of bottles of ketchup with it.
And besides, everyone knows that when there's a little bit of ketchup left, that you just put some water in there and shake it up.
Oh, Kris.
No. We should do the hacks of the penny pinchers.
My gosh.
There are penny pinchers. So by the way, my wife comes from extreme couponing, penny pinching mindset. Like her parents have the most fantastic stories of how they spent months saving up for a can of Laurie's seasoned salt and how baby Ben spilt it over and how they cried. They cried because the $2.40, bottle of seasoning had to be replaced.
Couponers and penny pinchers, the thing that I struggle with, Kris, is that I think time is always more valuable than money. And most people will elaborate how much time they'll spend on something. Like,
I know we
tried to do the coupon thing once and we spent 4 hours in the grocery store. Guess what the grocery store wants? You to spend 4 hours in their store shopping for products. Like,
including buying a lot of stuff that you actually don't need. But just because you can get a quote unquote good deal on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Although Mark Cuban had something up on social that I thought was interesting. He had his top 10 buys, and one of them was every time something goes mega on sale, buy as much of it as you can because it's a fact that you're going to consume it. It's a fact that you're going to consume it. So he says, save money. And by the way, that's smart. I totally get that. By the way, I don't want to go and buy the same thing. Think about that. I can buy a year's worth, or I can just go every week and buy a little bit of it. Well, that's sucking my time every single week.
Yeah, definitely. If there's something you're already going to buy and it goes on sale, great.
So are we talking about financial choices, dude? Or are we talking about time hacks today?
A little bit of, I want to know from you because we started this out. We're going to talk about the 5 things you do recommend to buy, Kris.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to talk about the 5 things to not buy.
Dude, can we talk about the things that people are buying that they shouldn't right now?
Yeah.
Well, haven't you heard with this post-pandemic, I may not be going back to work. I need a different house so I can work from it. It's like, great. Well, guess what? Building materials are up 7 million %. So good for you. You're buying a home at the very worst of times when it comes to actual price. Unfortunately, over the next 5 to 7 years, those prices are going to keep coming up. So they're going to actually get rewarded for that behavior. But there's a lot of people right now, Carson, that instead of investing, they're focusing on their own home. They're focusing on, I've got to find a way to improve my private lifestyle. And that's the problem, is that anytime you're making your lifestyle better, you're hurting your financial future for the investing that you could be doing that could actually make your life better.
So I've got another list here, Kris, of 25 things you should never buy. And again, this totally comes from the consumer scarcity mindset. And I want to hear what you think of some of these. Baby shoes.
So are we going to do overrated, underrated?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, baby shoes are totally overrated. The kids don't even walk. They don't even use them. They're purely for photography.
Yeah.
That's it. We're hurting their feet.
The cool thing is all the top brands make baby shoes. You can get your baby in little Nikes or in little Adidas.
They're so cute.
Okay. Natural. Oh, I really want to know what you think about this one. They're saying to not buy natural diamonds.
They're saying buy synthetic?
Uh-huh.
Oof. Man, that's a toughie because when I hit my 15th year anniversary, I slapped a really big multi-carat on her finger and she loved it.
You didn't buy synthetic?
In my heart,
but they're the same. You can't even tell the difference, Kris.
I mean, dude, we could talk about collectibles. We could talk about the value of diamonds going up over time.
Yeah.
But dude, that one really came down to one thing. I will break all of my financial rules. There's one person in my world that could literally ask me for anything, and it never passes through a financial filter of should we or shouldn't we. And that's my wife. She's fairly frugal. She doesn't ask for a lot. And when she does, I'm always trying to give her things that she's not even asking for. I promised her the moon when we got married. I said, I'm going to give you everything. She's like, but you're poor. I'm like, I'll find a way. And so that woman, when she asked for something, we walked into our last house, and it was amazing for me. It was a multi-million-dollar house. We walked through it. And when we were done walking through it, she turns to me and she says, I want that. And I'm like, done. And she did complain, not really complain, but her original diamond that I got her when we first got married was adorably small. So I don't know. I think real diamond is probably more of a traditional maybe thing. I don't mind it. I like giving my wife the real thing.
Well, and I think you got to ask, what are you buying it for?
Yeah.
Are you buying a diamond because it's something that you need in your life? No, you're buying it to make somebody feel good. And
but here's the bigger point, Carson. If you become addicted to saving money to invest it so that you can have your money making money for you, a time will come when you can really have anything that you want. I mean, for years now, I can have whatever I want. For fun last night, I was, lately, I don't always drive my BMW i8. Sometimes I have a hard time with this whole don't text and drive thing. So literally when I have meetings, I hire a car service, a limousine service to come in and basically pick me up. And I do that for safety, or I do that to make better use of my actual time. And my wife's like, what were you doing last night? She's like, I was looking at cars. She's like, but you hardly drive anymore. I was like, I know, but honey, if I want, I can have the car because all of my investments are now paying for this lifestyle. Isn't that really cool? And I always tell people that if you want really nice things, have it when you deserve it. If right now deserving it is in lieu of investing, then I don't think you deserve it yet. I think that you should have your priorities set straight. And so it's not even about any of these specific suggestions, not the really cool armored plated vehicle, the bulletproof like military like tech that comes with it. It's not about the diamond. It's not about any of the specific things. I think it's more about where you're at in your life and have you prioritized investing to have enough money rolling forward or not.
This article brought up the same thing again. They said gym memberships are something you should never buy. They say that there are many ways to burn calories without the gym, and that Americans waste $1.13 billion on unused gym memberships.
Yeah,
each
but
year.
that's mixing two messages.
Yeah.
A gym membership that doesn't get used is a stupid financial choice. A gym membership that does get used, and because the gym supplies the equipment or the environment or whatever that actually gets the job done. See, for me, it's not always about what costs less. It's actually what works. What works is more important than actually what costs what.
Well, and that's why I was saying, what are you buying it for?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people buy a cell phone and then complain about the bill that comes in the mail. And it's like, well, do you want the service or not?
Yeah. Make a choice.
So Kris, let's start there. What are things, what else? So this list is crazy. I mean, it talks about
listen,
gym
people are gonna watch this episode and they're gonna say, oh, Kris is telling me what I should and shouldn't buy.
Yeah.
I want to be really clear. I just hired a private chef. Now she runs my kids around. She's basically like a full-time second mother. Just calling it. I don't know what to call her. I was like, I'm looking for Brigitte. I'm like this beautiful French individual to come in and help clean things. Dude, I get paleo amazing dinners every night. Lunch is made. These are things my wife doesn't like doing. I say, honey, I love you so much that you just don't have to cook anymore. And honestly, like that challenged a little bit of her identity. Like, oh, you're right. I really hate doing this, but will I feel bad later? I'm like, well, what are you doing different with your time? She's spending more time with my kids. She's spending more time with my daughter on our private education that we have for her. And yet people are like, oh, Kris, like, hoity-toity, man, you have a private chef come in and make you meals? I'm like, actually, I'm building a body. I'm 41 years old. I'm building a body that is going to be freaking strong when I'm 70 years old. And I believe that it's what you put in. And the reality is, I don't like taking the time to prep. And by the way, if I look at the value of my time, it's ridiculous for me to take a minute to even procure food. I just want to snap my fingers and have it magically appear. Believe it or not, that choice is about having more money to invest.
Well, and Kris, you are always preaching to be smart with your money, focus on investing. But the problem with the miser attitude, the problem with like the Scrooge, the Christmas Carol story that Scrooge was facing is this idea that if you're just saving money for the sake of saving money, like you never really live.
To what end? Yeah. So it's interesting, when I was poor, I made choices that were appropriate for where I was financially. As I made more money, I always put investing first. And as long as investing was a priority, I would always take a portion and kick it off and invest. My dad taught me this. I was a young entrepreneur. I had a paper route. I had a little side hustle. And my dad said, son, when you get your check, the first thing you do is set 10% aside and you give it to church or charity. He says, then you get to set 20% aside and put it in your checking account. You can spend that however you want. By the way, there are some things that you have to buy that I won't buy for you. Because that's just a privilege, and you're going to learn pride of ownership, and you're going to learn how to take care of things. Because if you mess it up, you're the one who has to replace it. But the other 70%, guess where it went? It went straight to savings. Now, my dad didn't teach me investing. He taught me savings. But that was a really important foundational piece that when I kind of graduated to becoming a man, I realized, oh, you now need to make money work for you. And no, this is not taught anywhere, but this is what the wealthy do. This is how you become wealthy. And you can become rich in a single generation if you prioritize investing first above, personal desire. I went 5 years without owning a single nice thing. After the fifth year, I moved into a custom built home on the golf course. Nuts. It was not a tiny house. It was beautiful. It was equipped with everything that someone could actually put in a beautiful multi-million-dollar home. And so there's a time to have nice things, but there's a time to sacrifice. There's a time to delay gratification. But if you want to know what trumps everything, I use the example of my wife. Experience and memories, those are my favorite things to do with money. And so like my kids, my oldest, I got 3 more years with her at home. So you better believe that I'm prioritizing. It's not, oh, how much money can we spend for that? It's no. I've been such a good steward of money. I now have money in excess that I can use for things that will help create and produce the right kind of memories. And you got to prioritize. And so you got to ask it. Jesus said something interesting from the Bible that I think is interesting. He says, where your heart is, there is your treasure also. And I think that what he meant by that, this 2,000-year-old saying, is what is important to you? Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? Is it the latest gadget? Are you trying to have the nicest car? And obviously, like if you talk to Dave Ramsey, what he values is no debt. And I love that he gets people in a mindset of save, save, save. I am only different than Dave in one major way. I say invest, 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 because debt-free is a level of security, and it's a level that most will never enjoy. But what's actually feels better financially than security? It's a residual income that can cover all your bills and have leftover money. And you have a choice right now. You can either have no debt or you can have a residual income that comes in no matter what. And as last night at the dinner table, it was Mother's Day, and I was having this conversation with my brother-in-law, who's doing a little bit of work in my backyard because he's a genius with dirt. My sister was there, and we were having this conversation, and they're like, man, Kris, we hate debt. We want to do everything we can to get out of debt. And I said, well, listen, when you finally get all your debt paid off, you're going to have a measure of security, but you're not going to have ultimate security. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, no debt can't put food in your mouth. No debt doesn't allow you to send money to the grandkid, let alone get on a plane and go visit them. Like, no debt only takes care of some of your financial obligation. And I said, well, how much is your debt? And I'll just use fictitious numbers since we're doing a podcast here. But let's call it $6,000 a month. I said, okay, great. I'll make you a deal right now. I'm going to write you a check for $500,000 right now, or I'll give you $6,000 a month every month for the rest of your life. And they said, well, Kris, $500,000 would pay off all our debts, but $6,000 would cover all of our obligations. I said, well, you get to make this one choice. What's easier for you? He said, and they went through it and they're like, well, we've been preparing ourselves. We've habituated our mind to say we're going to pay off all our debts. I said, great. When you pay off all your debts, how much of your $6,000 a month of expense will go away? They said about half of it. Okay, so here you go. You paid off your $500,000 of debts, and now you have $3,000 in less bills, and now you only need to make $3,000 a month to cover your other active expenses. I said, tell me about the other choice. They said, well, if we could live with our debt, the $6,000 a month would service our debt, slowly paid off over time, but also give us twice as much money on a monthly basis. I said, so which one is a higher level of security? And they didn't want to admit it at first, but in the end, they had to admit. They said, living with the debt and having $6,000 a month would be better than eliminating the debt and still needing to cover the extra $3,000 a month. I said, there you go.
I remember a conversation when I first started with your company, Kris, 7 years ago, and it really opened my mind. Someone was asking, an investor was asking, should I pay off this car?
Yeah.
Or should I buy another property with you? And I think you said, how about you buy another property with me and we use the cash flow from that property to make the monthly payment on the car and pay off the car, and then you have both.
Yeah, so today we're talking about what you should be doing with money. And the first thing, when I say invest means a lot of different things. And I want to close gap on this on when you actually get out of debt. When people say, okay, Kris, you tell me then, well, will I ever get out of debt? Well, I'm going to tell you as an extremist, no. But as someone who's going to be a little bit more moderate in their advice today, the answer is once you have a residual income that covers all your expenses, then let any money above and beyond that now be used to pay off your debts. That is the proper order of things. That is what we should be taught. That is what you should do.
Well, and if you've got extreme debt, like we're talking credit card debt and things like that have crazy interest rates.
Yeah, there's always an exception to the rule, dude. Why put money into an investment that is making 25% when you have money on a credit card costing you 27%.
Right.
Yes, if you have some heinous financial choices in your past that are nightmares knocking on your door every day, then there are circumstances, but I'll tell you what, student loan? No. Yeah. Credit cards with like single digit? No, it's called positive arbitrage. It's a very simple game. If I can earn 25% and the money that I borrow to earn the 25% costs me 5%, How often should you do that trade?
Every day.
Every single day. Well, then you say, whoa, hold the phone.
That's a
Kris.
lot of debt.
How much debt are you trying to tell me to get into? I said, if it's a positive arbitrage, good business debt, about as much as the bank will give you, as much as you can have, not handle, have.
Well, and I think actually Dave Ramsey invests a lot of what he gets too. I think.
Yeah, but he's the reverse order.
Yeah.
Dave says, pay off everything, and then you're safe to invest. And I'm like, Dave, for the average person to pay everything off, you're asking them to eat up their most valuable asset to work against them, time.
Well, and I honestly think the reason Dave teaches that is because he doesn't believe most people will know what to do with the money, that they'll squander it.
Well,
so
I don't know
teaches
about
them
that. He
basic
works with
principles.
financial services where he's basically pitching financial companies
Yeah,
that
and
are,
there's
that are
that whole
lining up
ball
to
of wax.
offer you single digit crappy ROIs that'll never get you anywhere.
Well,
You know,
and that's why I think people should be, dying to get into your airspace because you can show them what to do. Most people say, okay, I've got a pile of cash. What do I do?
So my sister and my brother-in-law left the dinner table saying, okay, Kris, we believe you. So what are we supposed to do different? And I said, well, simple. You're in the business of dirt. You build roads. You dig pits with excavation equipment. You work, you get paid a lump sum of money, and then you go and try to manage your debt. I said, if I were you, you should think differently. And everyone watching today should ask this question. How do I use my skills to create a residual income?
Yeah.
And you should learn to think in residuals and not paying stuff off, because paying stuff off is an accumulation mindset. And here's what's wrong with it. The average American in their working life will set aside a couple $100,000 for retirement. When you look at the equity in their home, their 401ks, IRAs, they're going to have a couple $100,000. And it's $170,000 roughly. Well, you take $170,000 and if you wanted to produce a residual off of that, it's going to be a couple $100 a month. And that's because you focused on being out of debt and building a pile of money. But at that point in your life, if you're consuming $70,000 a year, then $170,000 is going to last you 2.5 years and it's going to be gone. So the accumulation mindset is broken. But here's the funny thing. You might need $2.8 million at a 3% return or interest coming off of that 2.8 just to have a basic $100,000 a year. That's pathetic. Did you know that I can create a business producing an extra $100,000 a year with like $50,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 or buy a franchise? Like there's so many ways to do it with way less money than out of the financial planning hoax system.
So let me ask you this though, because if you were starting a side hustle or a business, Kris, I'd give you a 100% chance of success. But a buddy comes to me and starts talking about starting his own business. And I'm like, looking at the wounds you've licked over the years to learn how to do this, Kris.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your chances of success are so low. Like, how do you mitigate that?
It's simple, dude. It's always the same hack, but it's just something that almost nobody will do. And it's called get a mentor. Get proximity to somebody that knows what they're doing.
For example, go it alone.
For example, my brother-in-law, my brother came to me, Nick. And Nick is a serial entrepreneur that is always dabbling in something new. And he says, hey, Kris, we were thinking that we could build a man-made lake that is long and skinny and we'll sell properties at $1 million all around it and we'll make it a custom water ski lake. What do you think? And I said, well, have you ever done this before? He's like, no, but check out the numbers. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not going to get involved in a multi-year deal with millions of dollars at stake if no one in this group has done it before. You got a bunch of young, excited people, and there's a good chance you're going to lick some wounds. I said, however, I knew a guy in Arizona that bought super cheap land an hour outside of Phoenix. He put 2 water ski lakes in, improved the value of the land several times over, sold it, and he made a lot of money. I says, let me put you on a phone with him. And if he's on the board of directors guiding and giving instruction and direction, then I'm in. And they said, well, Kris, that'll cost us money. Why should we do that? I said, let me tell you why. Number one, did you know that if you don't slope the sides just right on the dirt level, that the wakes will erode the sides and it will actually ruin your lake? And they said, I didn't really think about that. I said, of course you didn't. You've never done this before. He says, furthermore, did you know that the algae is going to build up in the hot weather in the area that you're proposing this? And it's going to turn into a deep pond scum. And they're like, I hadn't really thought about it. Yeah, you need to hire a marine biologist. You got to put a certain kind of fish and a ratio of them to eat enough of the actual algae. I said, guys, you haven't thought through everything that can go wrong. Murphy's Law says if it can go wrong, it will. So you have to have someone on the team that is smarter than all of you. I don't step into anything. Right now, you and I know that we're working on a multi-billion-dollar play. And the only reason why I'm gung-ho on it is because the prototype has been so successful. The prototype is nearly at a 9-figure level of success. And now we just have to scale. If you can scale, you can sail. So if you want to, make $1 billion, which by the way, I'm going to be a billionaire before I'm 50 years old. That's my prediction. I declared that that's what I wanted to do back in 2008. It'll take me a little bit of time to get there, but I didn't get there alone. I got there with mentors. I got there with people that know what they're doing. So don't go it alone. Don't be a lone wolf. Get a member of the team that says, been there, done that. And better if they've been there and done that tens of times, maybe hundreds of times.
So someone that comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to buy these reusable plastic bags, and that's my plan to reach financial freedom, versus someone who says, I'm going to spend $20,000 on a mentoring program on some sort of get proximity with someone. You would greenlight one and not the other.
Yeah, but it all comes down to ROI and math. Just do the math. And this is the one thing that we're not taught. They're like, well, I don't know how to do that math. Shut up. You learned it in 5th grade. It's addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. This is not, you don't hire an expert to do this. You do the math. And if someone were to say, Kris, I'm passionate about the $10 sandwich reusable sleeve. And here's why. I figured out that on average, every month, I spend $3.19 on sandwich bags because I have X number of kids and we have X number of lunches, and this is how we use all these sandwich bags. And so I figured that over the course of the year, I'm going to spend almost $38. If I buy the $10 bag and I lose it once and have to replace it once, then my guess is with that I'm going to be like, listen, if you're passionate enough to do the math and the math makes sense and you know that you'll hold yourself accountable to it because you know yourself better than anyone else, go for it. I'm not going to say no. However, if you have all these stupid ideas of saving money that aren't money making, you are screwed. You can't save enough money to become financially free. You can save enough money to set a meaningful amount of money aside. And I know there's always an exception to the rule, but I'm not talking about the exception, like 1/10% of 100%. I'm talking about the average person, because if you don't have good odds of success in following a plan, the plan is broken and you shouldn't follow it.
So in doing research for this topic today, Kris, I came across a cool video. This guy's got a channel, Minority Mindset.
I love Minority Mindset.
He's got some cool stuff.
He's a good dude.
So he was listing the 5 things that he recommends buying, and and I want a hot take on this from you. If you think this strategy is interesting,
let's go through them.
He said his first thing. He said people are consumers and they buy things, right?
Yeah.
And he said how you counteract that is he's like, companies are making money off of you because you are buying things.
Yeah.
And he's like, so get into that game.
Yes.
He says every year when you upgrade your phone, put some money into Apple stock. If you buy a certain brand of car.
So he says of the 5 things you should be buying, you should own stock.
And he says how you pick that, how you make yourself accrue that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, not everybody has 50,000 just sitting there ready to buy a bunch of stock. But he's like, just every time you buy something, put some money into the stock. You apparently approve of this product.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Do I believe in owning stock in the companies whose products I purchase?
Yeah.
I actually think that's a dumb idea.
Interesting.
I think a lot of people think it's a really smart idea. I'm like, are you kidding me? Please add a lot more intelligence than I like the product. Here's what I think you should do. I think you should ask, which companies are the future? Which companies are in the running to be the best and the best? They are future makers. I want to own those companies. And you know what? I won't pick them all right. I am going to lose, but with some help of research services. Here's what I do like about what is being said. Oh, dude, of course. Dude, why on earth is everyone trying to make a decision based on what they know? And what you know can only get you what you got. So by the way, taking advice from yourself is usually the dumbest thing on the planet. Go find an expert. Everyone's always like, oh, who are your mentors? Like my parents, my friends. I'm like, no, that's not mentors. Those are peers. Those are people that you have followed in the past. We're talking about you becoming a financial leader. If you want to be a financial leader in your own life, guess who you got to be taking advice from? Do you want to take, Carson, I can give you 2 choices. You can take advice from a millionaire or a billionaire. Whose advice do you think you would want more?
The billionaire.
Remember that a billionaire is a millionaire 1,000 times over. I totally want the perspective of a billionaire instead of just a millionaire. There's nothing wrong with the millionaire, but what I'm saying is if you want the best, then you should get advice from the best. So, by the way, I gotta agree with Minority Report on this one thing. Do I believe in owning stocks? Yes, but I'm not going to pick them based on companies whose products I like. I'm going to find I'm going to diversify myself into, because by the way, I'm not buying stocks. I want to be really clear. I am buying pieces of some of the most successful companies on the planet. And what's my likelihood of starting one of the top 500 in the world companies versus being able to buy into one of them? And dude, with the way the fractional buying works these days, dude, you can download an easy trader account for free, pay 0 commissions, and you don't have to buy the stock where it's $832 a share. You could buy $8.32 of a share.
Uh-huh. Well, and I think the reason that in that video he's saying to buy things that you buy is because most people don't know which stocks are going to do well, but most people engage with products that have more or less stabilized, like Apple, or, you know, if you use Netflix and you invest in Netflix,
but can I tell you what's wrong with that? Let me tell you what's wrong with that.
Yeah.
This is S&P 500 thinking.
Yeah.
In S&P 500 thinking, you take the 500 most successful companies. So I want you to think long and hard about this. The 500 most successful companies listed on the S&P, when you average out their 30-year win rate by owning a piece of all 500 of them, your average ROI is less than 7%. Now, I know they publish 9%, but if we get into the real math, after fees and some of the janky math where they're running the math to make their numbers look good, you're under 7%. If you're earning 7%, ask yourself, will that plan make you wealthy? It won't.
I mean, it's better than it sitting under a mattress.
But that's the problem with our thinking. It's better than, no, don't find that it's better than. Go find a winning game plan. If your game plan doesn't work. So by the way, that's why I say, don't own a piece of safe companies. Own a piece of companies that can become world leaders. Own companies that have huge upside. That's called asymmetric risk. Low downside. I lose everything. That's low downside compared to the upside, which is, you know, I could lose 100% or I could make 100%. That's not asymmetric. That means that my downside is as big as my upside. I pick a company where I could lose 100%, but I could gain 10,000%. And even if I pick 80% of them wrong, the 20% that go right is going to make me all my money times 50 all over.
Well, and Kris, I think you're actually revealing one of your mindsets that is super powerful. And again, it comes back to, how do you know which stocks are going to do this stuff or which have this potential? And your answer is, go to the people that know, that have done this all their lives, that
True.
know how to read the market and what's coming up.
What's number 2?
Number 2.
Minority Report. He said 5 things.
Oh, yeah. I want your take on this as well. Commodities, gold, silver, things that maintain their value. Oil. He said buy stocks in oil companies because that's never going away. Well, we'll see.
I don't know. I hate commodities.
Interesting.
I do not buy commodities, but it's for the exact same reason. Look at their 30-year average of growth. And unless you can make an argument on how something is going to shift or change and we're going to run out of the resource that's going to make it all of a sudden way more valuable, I just think that think about this. Imagine, Carson, if you invest in stocks and average 7%, but then you buy commodities and let's say you average 4%. And then whatever options 3, 4, and 5 are, let's say they're all single digit. You're going to get at the end of the day what's called a blended return. You take the 5 numbers, you add them up, you divide them by 5, and it'll say, well, this is what your average is. If your average is single digit, your plan is to fail. And now that you've listened to me say it, I'm telling you, so now you know it. If you are not mixing in double digit and triple digit and even quadruple digit, then you're saying, not only do I not want to be rich, but I want to struggle. And by the time I do retire, I want to make sure I have 90% less than I'm actually going to need. That's what single digit amounts to almost every single time.
You'll like number 3. Real estate.
Yes, of course. Yes, because real estate done correctly can be a double-digit ROI. Dude, I'm going to be averaging 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, even 100% ROI on the real estate that I'm buying because of the market that we're in right now. Dude, I love it. But here's why I love it. Take 25%. 25% ROI compared to a 6%, which is what the market's going to give you. 6% over 20 years will become 160 grand if you start with 50. 50 grand becomes 160. So basically it triples. But did you know that if you can get into the game of real estate and learn how to earn a basic 25% annual ROI, there's a reason why 90% of the wealthy make their money there or store their money there, right? It's been that way for over 100 years. And that's because 25%, it's 4 times more than 6%, but it's 27 times more money with the compounding effect over the same 20-year spans. So whereas 50,000 at 6% becomes 160, 50,000 in real estate at 25% over 20 years becomes $4.33 million. Guess what? That's winning by a landslide. Now you have a shot. If you have a shot, now we have a plan that might be realistic.
So in this video, he talks about real estate, and he says, and I just wonder what your thoughts are on this. He says that the downside of real estate is that it takes a sizable chunk to get into it. Like you've got to save up $30,000, $40,000. And so he recommends Fundrise, which is a crowdfunding platform for
Listen,
real
there's
estate.
nothing wrong with REITs. There's nothing wrong with Fundrise. But if you look at the earnings that you're going to get off of those, because of how they do the math and how they split and divide the pie, you're left with often a lot less money. So it becomes one of those options where it's like, well, it's better than nothing. I hate that answer. I passionately disdain. It's better than nothing says, oh, good. So you're just trying to fail a little less bad than your other alternative. Both are failure.
Some people
so
want to be
neither are
average.
good. No, now you're just trying to piss me off. Mediocrity is the bane. So this game of Fundrise, yes, that's a great turnkey option. But I think that if you look out there, you're going to find better. And I think in real estate, you're going to have to play a longer game. But this is where I disagree with our friend over there, is that he's coming at it from the space of it takes money to make money, Kris. I'm like, yes, but they never said whose. And that's what changes the game. I mean, I buy real estate all the time without money or credit. How do I do that? I'm Kris Krohn. No, I became this person because I studied with mentors like Robert G. Allen and Dolph DeRusse that say, well, a little bit of creativity can swap out writing a check to get into a deal for something else a little bit more creative. Find a motivated seller. Find a deal that doesn't require. There's a way to do no money down. And here's what I know. If you become focused and refocused and obsessed on the skills of the wealthy, you can acquire them. So my original mentors, I've run circles around many of them and have gone far beyond what they ever did in the game of real estate because I learned from them. And then I went as far as I possibly could and said, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just going to go as deep and hard and fast as I can on this. And it took me further.
Number 4, asset protection. Insurance, life insurance.
Yeah. So asset protection, incredibly intelligent. Again, if it's done the right way. I put a ton of money into life insurance that are whole life policies where I'm building a high cash value as if I were putting money in a bank account, but I can pull that money out and I can invest it. And so it's not so much about just a death benefit. Everyone should have a death benefit that can take care of all their bills so their loved ones don't have to be left with a crazy financial mess. Like term is cheap. But I do whole life on top of that because my money as it sits in the bank on average is paying me around 5, 6, 7%. And that's better than a bank account at, around the corner that pays me not even 0.5%.
So maybe I shouldn't even bring this up, but we've talked about Dave Ramsey enough today that I feel like maybe we should. He doesn't recommend whole life.
People are not just buying term, they're buying into a whole life policy. And what it's doing is they're actually investing in the life insurance company for the dividends. And guess what? Earlier I said, if your blended ROI is single digit, it's a broken plan. So if you're investing in a whole life policy because it's part of how you want your money to grow at single digit, that's stupid. But I use a very specific type of life insurance policy where I put my money in and I actually have the ability to pull the majority of it, 90% back out. I can borrow it while still making money in it, having that money completely untouchable and throw it in one of my investments.
So you're not doing whole life for any sort of
I'm not investing in the insurance company. I just
ROI.
want the perks along the way to support my own investment strategy. Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with Minority Report on that. I think that it is smart as long as it's done the right way.
Okay, number 5, he lists trust and estate planning, and so that your money has a future after you die.
Yeah. So before I answer, I just got to say, here's what's concerning. The first 3 things that he shares are all investment ideas, but the first 2 are deeply single-digit ROI, also the 4th one. But the 3rd one is real estate, and all I'm hearing him basically saying is real estate is how you're going to get rich. Don't forget that starting a business or having a side hustle can be a huge preservation of time. And if you look at the world's wealthy, if there are people that are wealthy, even more wealthy than real estate owners, They're business owners. And it's not that we're all going to become a Zuckerberg. It's not that we're all, going to make crazy amounts of Bezos money. But the reality is that you don't have to make $100 million to have a profitable exit in business. I personally think that I encourage entrepreneurship as much as possible in all of its forms. So I think that one got a little left off the list.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't talk about that either. He only talks about business in terms of buying stocks of businesses.
Well, and listen, there's a lot of people that aren't cut out for business. You need a mentor and you need someone that can show you the ropes. But as far as like a trust, yeah, people should actually do asset protection. It's a very smart play. A lot of families are ruined because they actually don't have it properly installed and put in place.
Michael Jackson.
Yep. Case in point, had all the money in the world and didn't have that thing put together. So Neverland went to pot.
Yep.
Maybe literally.
Whoa. Okay, so those are things you should buy, and more or less your opinions on them. Do you have anything else that's burning in your mind about what people are buying that they shouldn't?
I think the most important thing for everyone to get out of this episode today is a game plan. You should be able to do 5th grade math on a calculator and say, these are my financial choices, and here's how executed properly could actually create retirement by this date. If you don't know how your financial investments are going to create financial retirement by a particular year, if you're going to be off by like a decade, then you're not doing the math and you're leaving things to chance. There's some things you should never leave to chance. I always tell people though, one of my biggest beliefs is you should arrive early, which means don't try to time it where it's like, well, I'll have enough money at 67 years old. Dude, how about a game plan where you're there at 45? How about a game plan where you're there at 35? I was there at 26. And that's because I wanted to be early. Because if it didn't work, I wanted to have time to figure it out. And I think most people have a plan where they're going to arrive late, not even on time. And so I think that instead of even focusing on the technique or what should I do with my money, you got to actually say, am I willing to run the math on the choices that I'm considering and create a standard? We get what we tolerate. So if your standards are for a half-baked plan that will leave you better off, but not all the way, it's a half measure. That's a bad plan. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't pick it up in the first place. Most people would be good to just take a day off of work and sit down and drop a battle plan and say, I need a plan to get rich. And again, it's not so that you can have all the nicest things in life. It's so that you can get where you're trying to go early and then have money as options for the things that you're supposed to do with your life.
Well, Kris, we have built a whole department of people that do these game plans with people.
Yep.
And anybody that buys your free book, it actually comes with a consultation, right? It's a
$200 consultation that we give everyone for free so that they can learn their options. Everyone is in a different financial space, a different age. There's things that matter to them and are meaningful to them in different ways. And so I've just found that, you know what? There's definitely not one size fits all, but the principles I've shared today are going to be included in every single game plan. So if you don't know exactly, by the way, I always tell people, they're like, well, how much should I need for retirement? I'm like, 3 million minimum. They're like, well, why? Because if you were to give it to the financial planning institution, which I wouldn't advise, and they were to annuitize it and give you a basic 3 to 4%, now you got $100,000 a year coming to you and your family. It's not a lot of money, but that means that the principal remains untouched. So I ask, do you have a game plan to have 3 million set aside? And if the answer is no, then you should get a game plan or at least get a multimillionaire's perspective. And so, yes, I've trained a group of people on my perspective and on exactly what I would do for anyone that's listening here. And everyone's entitled to get that information. It's a free gift if you want one of the books. So,
and I mean, how often, Kris, do people come to you and say, what would you do if you were in my
all the
shoes?
time. It's like the number one thing. It's just like, I got this, I got this, I got this. What would you do?
Yeah.
And it's a game for me. I love playing the game, but I can't play it with, I get literally thousands of requests every month to play that game.
Right.
And that's why I employ, a couple dozen people to be able, and I've trained them to be able to deliver identical game plans to what I would do.
That's awesome. Okay. Any last thoughts on what people are buying or not buying or what they should buy or shouldn't
I'm going to say that if there was a decade that your dreams were built on, it's this one. There's not a sweeter real estate market. There's not a better business economy. We've never lived in this free of a world, an innovative world with more resources at fingertips than ever before. If you'll bring the gumption and the drive, there's a way for you to create an amazing financial future for yourself. And so subscribe to all my channels, watch and learn everything that you can. But when the time is right, strike, take action. Execution is everything.
Get a mentor, start investing.
Boom.